That's better.
So, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. I tell you what, what a day. What a day. What a day. It's been busy since 5 a.m. right up until 10 to 7. 10 to 7. But anyway, I'm so happy to see some wonderful faces. Des, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? What do you mean? What's this?
That was the smallest violin in the world playing for you there, Alex.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I thought you were trying to give me like some cyber money or something.
No. That was the smallest violin in the world playing for you there, mate.
Okay, all right, thank you. I do appreciate that. But you might already see we've got the gangster gang. Yeah, the enforcer, the original Godfather, and of course James Rowe. James Rowe sounds a bit scary. James.
Don't worry, James is the assassin.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I've been called many things in my time, but assassin, not so sure about that one.
Oh, there you go. It's a first.
All right. Well, listen, we'll do the formal intros on the other side of this music intro. The silent assassin. I've never heard that before. Not describe my good old friend James Rowe. No, not at all. Not at all. Guys, before we get into this one, make sure you subscribe to Cannon Fodder TV. Hit the bell notification button so you can receive almost all the latest news and some rumors as well. Daniel Ek. That's not happening, guys. It's not happening. It's not happening. James, how are you, my friends? How are you?
Very well. Very well. Like you, it's been a busy day today. I spoke to Charlie Oatway, who played for Brighton and Hove Albion and Brentford. So nice to speak to him today and write up the interview as well. So onwards and upwards, as I say.
Brilliant. Original Godfather.
Well, as they say in London and Islington, what the heck?
Enforcer. Bring
Hi,
it,
guys. Yeah, great. It's been an heck of a day, hasn't it? You know, so we'll just have to see how much cheesy as tell. We'll just have to see how it goes. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, dearie me.
There was a lady behind you, just fell back on the bed and then got up again.
Yeah, that's my wife.
Is it one of them shows, is it?
You moved into picture. Yeah. No, it's not. It's not one of them shows, Sel. No, it's not. I'd just like to say, just for a disclosure, she is fully clothed and everything's above board. That's my lovely wife, Sam, that is. Thank you, Tel.
And James is phoning from Amsterdam.
Yes, it's the network.
Now, mate. You've had a hectic weekend, you have.
James, do you want to bring some sensibility to this podcast, please? Your thoughts, please.
With all the rumours going about today, you would forget we've got a game on Thursday, which is in the short term a lot more important than any potential rumours. But I don't think it will happen. For me, if you're going to buy Arsenal Football Club, the last thing you're going to do is shout it from the rooftops. And, you go about it in a discreet way, especially with someone with the asking price of what Arsenal is worth. And then for me, when you hear about within 24 hours the share price of Spotify and Arsenal fans clamouring to open Spotify accounts to think that they can apply a bit of pressure and DM me into oblivion, I personally think it's a really good PR tactic. But we've got a game on Thursday, which is much more important in the short term. And I look forward to watching that game on Thursday and many a chicken coming home to roost.
Tel, is it a PR stunt?
Well, certainly it looks like it because Kroenke has a history of never, ever selling his assets. And as I've said for a long, long time, he's waiting for the big American market. There is money to be made with very little work. All he's got to do is hang on. We know before the end of within 5 years, we will have a Super League, a European Super League. They'll eventually drop the word European. And by the end of the decade, Arsenal will be playing matches against Real Madrid and Barcelona in such wide-flung, exciting places as Cincinnati and Michigan and all kinds of places. But that's what he's hanging on for. And, he's sent. I just feel really bad that he sent his son. He couldn't front it up. Silent Stan. Can he not talk? Has anybody ever heard him talk?
No, I haven't. Enforcer, you have a maybe the inside track on this story.
Well, not so much an inside track. As always, I've got a bit of hope, right? But I will say this: the guys do make fair points. It could be a PR stunt, but I'm going to look at it from a different angle, only because I have a part-time job, bookkeeping, so numbers and everything. But only going on what was said this morning, Alex, that he's only worth this amount of billions, so let's say 3.5 or even just under 5 billion, whatever. Okay, but Spotify is worth 58 billion. Okay, the way you got to look at it as well, though, guys, and no one's mentioned this. Yes, I agree. It could be pie in the sky. It could come all to nothing. But the other way you can look at it is he's a businessman. Okay, he will not use his own capital to buy Arsenal. He will take out loans. All right. He will take out loans to buy Arsenal. So when people say, but he's only worth 3.5 or up to 5 billion, that doesn't matter how much he's worth. Businessmen don't do it that way. They take out loans and they get payments back on their terms. Okay. So this is just a different way of looking at it. I'm not saying that Tel and James are wrong. I'm just saying we don't know which way it's going at the moment, all right? And going on what you've just said, Tel, about the Super League, we're on borrowed time. Yeah, they've given us 5 years borrowed time. So we have to do something in that 5 years, sooner rather than later. And if Daniel Ek is the option, because you've also got to think as well, I'll bring Dan Gotti into it as well. Yes, he has said he would like to own Arsenal, but he hasn't come up with a package. He hasn't come up with a deal offer. So how serious is Dan Gotti about it? See, I'm playing devil's advocate.
I think it's worth your while saying, because if we did, as I've been saying all along, if we did get a syndicate involved in this, so you're talking about some of the really well-off ex-players and people in the media and pop stars who support Arsenal, you could put together a big syndicate of people who would put up, by the time you've added up everything that they can put in, a lot of money, and they get fantastic kudos. It will be lovely to see Dennis Bergkamp back, Thierry Henry. There's all kinds of things that could be happening behind the scenes, which I would absolutely love. But I think it's a pipe dream. But you know what? One of the beauties of football is you can have dreams and you can have pipe dreams. And once in a blue moon or a red moon, it happens. So let's play it along. I doubt if it'll happen because of Kroenke's past history. But of course, everybody and everything has its price. Now, if the price is high enough to tempt Kroenke, he will sell. But it would have to be an almighty price. I think I read somewhere that the Uzbeki guy, Alisher Usmanov, offered, he already had loads of shares and he offered 1.8 billion there about 5 years ago. And plus he had shares, so he wasn't offering to buy the whole club because he had a load of it. And even that wouldn't tempt Kroenke. So we've got to look at what Kroenke expects the club to be worth in 5 years' time, and that's the real figure now, and it's going to be worth an enormous amount because, as we've all probably followed in the press, a lot of European clubs are in big trouble in terms of their finances. I personally feel we could have a debate about this if people want, that the whole of football finances needs to be re-looked at completely from the top to the bottom. And what players are earning, for instance, is in many cases absolute madness in a world where we've got so many people in India dying on the streets, and the patent companies who own the patents for the sort of different vaccines are not allowing their vaccines to be produced free of charge, and of course many are produced in India. So it's a kind of an upside down world where we can pay players enough to sort of beggar the actual club. And I'm sure James has got his finger on the pulse of what's happening in Europe in terms of financing. So I think we may see a revolution, hopefully, in the way football or soccer is financed, is broadcast, and is owned. And wouldn't it be, I know that the German one, which James I'm sure knows as well, is a lot more complicated than 50% plus one. So there's quite a few areas to kind of look at. But yes, it's going to be an exciting roller coaster for the next few weeks and months, I would have thought.
James, we've said literally it is time that we have a new owner, but what kind of owner, what kind of archetype owner would you like to see at Arsenal? How would you like to see this rolled out? Whether it's like the 50% that it's in the hands of the fans, or what kind of blueprint do you think would suit Arsenal?
Well, I think in the short term, an owner who's got Arsenal's best interests and the welfare of Arsenal Football Club first and foremost at heart. Where they need to go with a fine-tooth comb over the entire club from top to bottom and reading all figures and checking all the things. And Tell makes a great point about the salary that players earn. And, from my experience, the last 5 years of interviewing all players and managers at all different levels of world football, we've reached a point now where a young man is about to sign his first professional contract with a Premier League club, with a club of stature. And take the Premier League, for example. It's a big day for him. It's a big day for his agent. They're going into the office to sign the paperwork. And his mum and dad's there. And his mum and dad are not there for pride, or they are there for pride in terms of look of what my son or daughter has achieved. But in some cases, they're expecting their mortgage to be paid off. So the young man hasn't even put pen to paper, and the parents are expecting that their mortgage gets paid off. Hasn't kicked a ball for the professional club yet, but the parents, the financial rewards are just massive. And you're seeing it at grassroots level now, where referees are being abused when they don't see a foul. And for example, a young man or a young girl might get kicked on the pitch on a Sunday morning, and the parents will go bananas because the financial rewards are so big. They're thinking in one shot that they're going to make it. But if you look at the other side of the coin, having spoken to players where transfers have made their career and broken their career, you can't map out a career. You can have hopes and ambitions, but you can't map it out. You take Ziyech, for example, Dutch legend Marco van Basten on a football TV show here in the Netherlands last night. And remember, he coached Ziyech at Heerenveen. And he said that it's not healthy. He said Ziyech is on the bench at Chelsea, and he's coming on to play as a striker. He can do it because he's a good player. But if Van Basten was Ziyech, he would look to leave. And this is what I mean about Arsenal fans in particular, the buying of the player. We're still paying Mesut Ozil. He's on £315,000 a week, and we're still paying, obviously because he's under contract, Aubameyang, and Partey's on 260 grand a week. So that's in excess of nearly £1 million a week for 3 players. But it's all right because we're going to have a new saviour. In the real world, it doesn't work like that. I live in the Netherlands. You don't hear a peep out of Dennis Bergkamp. You don't hear a peep out of him. You don't see him in the news. You don't read about him. Nothing. The only time you see him is if his agent, for example, or a player who used to play with that he holds dear has like a fundraiser or a charity event or a charity football day. That's the only time you see him. Other than that, you don't hear a peep out of him. And I think a lot of it is pie in the sky, but I think in the short term, I would just want an owner who's just willing to get their hands dirty and see what the current situation is, because some fans think that we can buy our way out of trouble. We can't. We've got to have the bottle and the guts to make unpopular decisions going forward. And the crux with Kroenke, he doesn't have to sell. He doesn't have to sell. And as Tell says, he never sells. He will hang on to it until on his terms. So he's got Arsenal over a barrel, but it's all right because we've got Aubameyang, because we've got Partey and X coming from Sweden with Henri Bergkamp and Vieira. Vieira's, I'm sure he doesn't know if he still wants to be a manager, having his fingers burnt at Nice. Henri tried at Montreal Impact and Monaco, didn't cut the mustard. So this isn't fantasy football, this is real life. And I think that some fans have kind of taken the news from Sweden and thought, oh, this is going to be the saviour, when I really don't think that's going to be the case.
James, just before I go to Des, you said that the club has to make unpopular decisions. What kind of decisions do you think going forward the club has to make?
Selling players who are perceived to be world class. The wages of Aubameyang in particular, they're not sustainable. They're not sustainable with European football, let alone without European football. And I believe he scored 13 goals all season. Literally, there are people on their knees begging him to sign the thing. And now look at us. 13 goals the entire season. But he's looking well in a training photo. So therefore, he's bang on form, is he? Players have seen Arsenal coming. So we've got to reverse that trend now, where in the past, players would Ian Wright, for example, Arsenal showed interest. Where do I sign? Now, the players have also seen Arsenal as easy money. We've got to turn it around now, and we've got to really do our due diligence about players and not just be dictated to by the fans or the price tag or the agent.
Des, I can see you nodding your head quite a lot.
I agree. I agree with everything that James has said, because there are going to be some real, until this gets sorted, if it ever gets sorted, there are going to be some major dodgy decisions made. I totally agree with James. James is absolutely right. And he said it right the other day when he left his message on the WhatsApp. He summed it up perfectly. But as an Arsenal fan, and as we are all Arsenal fans, I want the best for this club. So if Daniel Ek is serious, I've got to stay positive about it for a little while, because it's a possibility. And that's what Arsenal fans are grasping at the moment, right? But I want to say this as an example. Now, I know, James, you've said it, and our good anchorman has said it, Odegaard, okay? I'm going to use him as a point, okay? There's not a for sale clause, what you've said, but I've been doing a bit of research today, which is quite rare for me in a way, but I have. If you take Real Madrid, they're £1 billion in debt. £1 billion, right? So there is a chance we could keep Odegaard, whether it be as a loan deal before you start jumping on me, James, because I know I'm probably speaking out of turn slightly, but even if it was a loan deal, okay. And I know he's, what is it, a £300 million, is it, get out clause? Is that right, James? Have I got the figures right there? Is it a 300 million?
Well, obviously in times of COVID, the last thing I'd do is jump on you, but I'll give you a hug when the time is right.
I know. It's a figure of speech. It was a figure of...
I know.
I've got the bed ready.
I know.
The bed's here, mate. I mean, if you want to come and have a bounce, just, No, but anyway, I mean on the mattress. Okay.
X-rated.
No, but the point...
X-rated.
So, is it a £300 million get out clause for Odegaard?
I'm not sure how much it is exactly, but I know that he signed an eight-year contract with Real Madrid upon signing for the club.
Yeah, I know.
8 years.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, because they're a billion... Yeah, but because they are £1 billion in debt, there's a deal that can be made. Okay. Again, there's a hope. You see what I'm saying, guys? And at the moment, we're going through very, very dark times. Okay. And as my old man would say, my old dad, right? The Kroenkes are like a fart in a colander and can't get out for holes. So what I mean by that is they're very stupid men, because they've taken this Arsenal club now to a point where they've basically spat their dummies out. Yeah. and the price of Arsenal will now depreciate because they want to hold on to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so if these guys hold on to it, as you would tell, you'd probably agree with this, right? The fans are going to go, right, do you know what then? I'm not going to buy my season ticket, or I'm not going to buy an Arsenal top or Arsenal merchandise, yeah. And then they could say, right, we're going to boycott Asda. Do you know what I mean? This situation is going to cause a massive domino effect, and it's not just going to be. You see, I also think as well for this Super League, right? It should not come back on the clubs and the fans, right? If anyone should be punished, it should be the owners. Okay, because this was not the fans doing, this was not the clubs doing. So if anyone should be punished, it should be the owners. And my personal opinion on it is the owners of the 6 clubs, right, that went into this stupid thing should be kicked out of football. I know that's probably pie in the sky again, and you guys will probably say something about it in a minute, but I genuinely think the owners should be kicked out of football. And I totally agree with the boys when they say we need someone in charge of Arsenal who has Arsenal's best interests at heart. Because if we don't go, go on.
Sorry, go on, Des. Sorry.
All I was going to say was if we don't go forward looking for that, or getting that at least, we're just going to keep coming back to square one. So there you go. That's what I was going to say.
But Des, if you punish the owners, aren't you not punishing the club as well?
Not if you kick them out of football, mate. If you punish them and let them stay, then yes, it will filter back down to the fans because the fans will pay for it. Yeah. So, for example, let's say you fine Stan Kroenke. Not pick a number, 300 million pound, right? End of the day, if he stays in football, if he stays at Arsenal, the fans will pay for it. So the punishment should be severe. The punishment should be the 6 owners, yeah, or maybe the ones that pulled out the quickest can stay.
Listen,
yeah,
it's not going to work, and I'll tell you why. What will happen is if they actually won't do that, but and they must have thought of it at UEFA and FIFA. The reason why they daren't do that is because all that will happen is those owners will go back again and say, right, we are out. And they will take their club. And let's face it, the EPL needs and UEFA needs the English clubs because, the top English clubs bring in massive money on Sky and so on. So all that would happen is if they started to threaten to pull them out or shoot them at dawn or whatever you want to do with them, all that will happen is they'll just start the league. They won't worry. I mean, one of the things that was said was any player in a club that joins the Super League won't be allowed to play for his country, and if it's Arsenal women as well, her country. Well, that's not going to happen. That would never happen. No country's FA would say you could tell me which players I can pick. So that was an idle threat, a hollow threat. So I'm afraid it's like a kind of a bulldozer, just moving along really slowly. But this European League or Super League or whatever you want to call it will come because one is it produces so much money for the owners, and secondly, so many of the clubs like Barcelona, Real Madrid are drowning in debt. Both Inter Milan and AC Milan, they are drowning in debt, and the obvious way out is to say, look, we are rich. We can pull the biggest money, the biggest crowds, the biggest TV audience. And then, and they could do that easily. And John Barnes said it right. If people, please, if you haven't seen John Barnes' interview, go onto YouTube. John Barnes said this is nothing to do with the fans rocking up to the Emirates Stadium on a Friday night with sort of red flares and so on. Kroenke isn't worried about even 10,000 fans hating him. He's been hated over in the States, and people have said, it's been said that people have committed suicide over him moving clubs from one part of the States to somewhere else. and one of them that he moved, and it was the equivalent of moving Arsenal from London to sort of Moscow. You know, I mean, he does not care, and he will do it. So I'm afraid we are caught in an awful situation. It's no longer sport. Do you know what I was thinking? What Kroenke really wants is like when people go to the sort of theatre. You buy your theatre ticket and you go and see a musical, or you go and see a Shakespeare play, and you know what you're going to get, and you have a wonderful time, and it's entertainment. That's how Kroenke sees football. He doesn't see it as a competition. It's entertainment. And that's why they said, would you rather go and see Stoke play on a cold night up in the Potteries, or would you rather go and see them play one of the top European teams? So he sees it as an entertainment, and it's not an entertainment, it's a sporting competition. But he doesn't see it like that. And if it's a tug of war between UEFA, FIFA, and these Big 12 or Big 18. I mean, they'll probably bring in more clubs in 5 years' time and make it really strong. If they whipped all the really good clubs that are doing very well in the EPL, the same thing with big clubs out there in Spain and Portugal and Italy, if they pulled them out of their respective leagues, what would be left? It would be a disaster. So we are at a turning point. This is a fork in the road. And I, for one, don't know how it's going to play out. But an old lesson that my dad taught me once is that money talks. And follow the money. If you want to see what's going on in the world, follow the money. And unfortunately, the fella that's just behind Alex's ear with the moustache, he's got his eyes raised up. And what he's looking at is all his money's been piled up and it's really high. And he's just checking how high it is, because that's the future. It's money. It's not sport. Of course, it's not sport, you know, and I don't like that. And you don't like that. So the only other thing you can do is do the sort of Phoenix Club route and see if you can start it again with Dial Square or Gunners FC or something.
Or Cannon for the FC. James, Thursday night action. First leg.
Yes, Thursday. Yeah, really looking forward to it. I'm obviously safety is the most important thing, but I'm gutted I can't be in Spain for the double header and also in London as well. I think it's chickens coming home to roost. I saw that Villarreal lost to Barcelona yesterday. An awful error from their on-loan centre-back from Spurs, Juan Forof, who gave a pass back to his goalkeeper. Awful mistake, and Griezmann nipped in. But I saw the team sheet of Villarreal yesterday, and they rested their goalkeeper, they rested their left-back, and they took their striker off early. So 3 of the very good players they have had sufficient rest. I think it will be a 1-1 draw on Thursday. And I do not expect us to get through over 2 legs against Villarreal. And I saw in the translation, although I haven't watched it myself, I'll watch it later, with Unai Emery's press conference ahead of this game, where he was very complimentary about Arsenal. And he apparently said about it ending in unwanted circumstances. But if you look at the run that Arteta is on, is worse than Unai Emery's, but there's no one calling for his head. And when we spoke, when Emery was relieved of his duties, when I got into my hotel room in Norwich and listened to your WhatsApp message, they got their pound of flesh. In fact, Unai Emery had to leave. But I've gone on record as saying that I'm embarrassed as to what happened to Unai Emery. And I go on record again by saying if we did not sack him, we would be further on. We would be further on. People always like to go back to the 32 chances that Watford had at Vicarage Road against Arsenal. So what? What they don't tell you is that Unai Emery, like any new manager, was testing what his players were willing to do and not willing to do. And these players had been in a comfort zone under Arsene Wenger for years on end. So when Unai Emery was applying a little bit of pressure, they all wanted out, because they didn't want to have to prove themselves to someone like Unai Emery. Well, that says more about the character of those players than Unai Emery. And some of those players are still at the club, and that tells you all you need to know.
James, if some of the people who are watching this now go back and look at some of the Cannon Fodder TV excerpts when Emery was with us, I know Alex and myself were fully behind him. There was a whole thing going on about the fact that he was struggling to sort of speak English. Well, I'm afraid he speaks English, pretty well for a guy that can speak French. He can speak Basque. He can speak Catalan. He can speak Castilian. I mean, this guy did a wonderful job doing his best to try and speak in English. You had all that as a sidelight. Then if you looked at him, I mean, I've read his autobiography or his biography. He's had success wherever he's gone. He's not perfect, but neither is Arteta. And he was doing, I think, a very good job. But as Freddie said, and Freddie called it right, and you've called it right, Freddie said, you've got a load of players in that Arsenal team who are not doing it, and they're not interested in doing it. Get them out. Get them out. So I would say now, regardless of what happens in this semi-final, keep Arteta there. Let him have another couple of transfer windows. They're going to have to be picking up bargain buys and so on. I would not predict a defeat. I hate or even a draw. I always think on the bright side, because football or most sports are games of hope. Hope over common sense sometimes. So I would predict that because we leak goals, I mean, we just leak goals. I mean, it's just mad. I would hope for a 2-1 or a 3-1 win away in Villarreal, and probably a draw at home. That's what I'm hoping, and I'll stick with that as a prediction.
Enforcer.
What?
Your thoughts Thursday.
Oh, Thursday, right. Sorry, yeah. Sorry, I was digesting everything Tel had said. Sorry. Thursday.
Take your time.
Sorry, I lost track there. Sorry. Thursday. Comes after Wednesday, doesn't it?
Take your time.
No. Because that's how I'm feeling, Alex. I don't know what to feel. Because I always try and stay positive. I've always tried to be positive when I'm on here, when I'm in the chat, whatever. But
I know.
I just can't find it. We haven't got the players on the pitch. Yeah. We're playing Eddie Nketiah when we should have been playing Balogun or Martinelli. Mm-hmm. Yep. Eddie gets jumped over those two. Yeah. Balogun's going to be going, why did I sign this contract? Yeah. We've got a midfielder in a left back position because we didn't go and get a left back. We haven't got an out and out goal scorer because we don't know if Orba's going to be there. Yeah. We've got one positive that Odegaard's back, but then we don't know what's going to happen there. Partey couldn't hit a barn door at the moment when he's trying to pass the ball. What more? Leno seems to have holes in his legs. I think he's bandy-legged and I didn't even notice. You know what I mean? Or he just likes to chuck it in the goal himself. I think he's playing the wrong spot. I think he thinks he should be playing handball. But anyway, no, nothing's going to happen on Thursday. I think it's part of Arteta's. Here's another way of looking at it. It's Arteta's master plan to get the Kroenkes out. Lose as many games in the season as possible. And then they might go, do you know what? We're not winning. We'll sell. But no, I cannot even be positive. I can't give you a prediction. I'll predict it. I think we'll lose. And I think we're going to lose heavily. And even though Pablo Mari is playing out of his socks, the poor old fella.
Yeah.
You know, it ain't going to matter. And you know what? We've said it. So how many different combinations this season, guys, has he had? He's had 30 plus combinations. None of them have worked, really. As I said in the chat the other day, the only team, guys, we have taken 6 points off this season, right, is Sheffield United. And they're relegated. So what does that tell you? I mean, look, James, you said, I quote you from last week, if the Super League goes ahead, that's me done. right? The only good thing to come out of the Super League, mate, apart from the protests, which I think fair play to the people that did it, okay, especially you, Alex, being there. James, Arsenal didn't lose you as a supporter. That's a positive this week and take this week. Yeah, but when Thursday comes, right, the season was over a month ago, I think, personally. We've just been lucky to get this far. And the stupid thing is, I'm still Arteta in. Because I still feel the lad can do something, but he needs the right players. And we can sit here till the moon comes out and say he needs the right players, but is he going to get the right players? Because is the money going to be spent? Or is the money going to be spent this summer just to shut the fans up? Or should I say, not all the fans, a portion of the fans up? That's the way I see it going. Until you're absolutely right. Money has ruined the game big time. Yep. Absolutely destroyed the game that we love. Well, because it don't matter if you go down the pitch now, mate, and buy your season ticket and have your meat pie and a pint at half time, because bums on seats don't mean nothing. Can you imagine if you walk past the Emirates and you'd be saying to your grandkids or whatever, and you say, "My team used to play there." Do you know what I mean? It's because that's the way it's going.
Des, if you had a season ticket, would you willingly give it up? Would you not renew it?
What, for next season?
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
And I love Arsenal. Like these two guys here and yourself. I love Arsenal. But yeah, if I had a season ticket, yeah, and the way it's going, why would I want to put money in Stan Kroenke's pocket? Because it's not going to the club. Why would I want to make a greedy man greedier and richer? I wouldn't. I don't know how you two feel about it, but that's how I feel about it. Yeah. And this is the passion that we have. And you know the history more than anybody else tell, and you're proud of the Arsenal history, because when you talk about it, I can feel the pride coming out of you. Yeah? And the respect. That'll all be soon gone, my friend, because it won't matter. And that's the disgusting part about it. These American boys are destroying our legacy, and they'll do it brick by brick. They don't care how long they take or how quick it happens. Because they couldn't give a toss. They don't care. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, we used to own Arsenal. Well, yeah, we ran it into the ground because we, just because we could. We're their plaything. That's what we are." Sorry, I got a bit passionate there. I apologise.
No, I don't mind Arsenal being a plaything. I mean, yes, I agree. This old model of the Hillwoods has sort of gone back in the sort of 60s and so on. When the Hillwoods were sort of running the club, they were all rich bankers. The guy who started us off, moved us from Woolwich, was a property speculator. So there was always big money. But when David Dean bought his shares, he was told by Peter Hillwood, you are wasting your money. It's dead money. There is no money to be made in football. But it's nice to have you on board. And all these guys, they work for some of the top banks in London, and they enjoyed their football. But it's changed, and we won't go back. Those days are gone, and now it's big money game. I would love to say to anybody coming in, first of all, I'd like it to be a syndicate, and I'd like to have fans involved and fan share out there again. I'd like fans on the board. Maybe they could rotate that every 2 or 3 years. So I'd like if we could do something like they have in Germany. In Germany, not all of the clubs are. Some of the clubs are owned fully by say Volkswagen or some of these big companies. So, but the 50% plus one is in voting, so they can be owned by one person or one big company, but the 50% plus one is not really to do with ownership. In some clubs it is, but in some of the really big clubs like Bayern Munich and so on, it's the 50% is in terms of voting. 50% plus one has to be in the hands of fans. I mean, that's a modern way of looking at it, and it would be wonderful if Arsenal could go down those kind of lines. But just out of fun, I would love to say, if I was interviewing the next Arsenal owner, I'd say, will you commit to going down and watching us on a rainy night in Stoke? Because if you're not interested in December in Burnley or Stoke or Newcastle or somewhere wet and cold, then really you aren't the right man for us. And of course, we had David Dean, who did that, and he followed us everywhere. Unfortunately, this is the day of the absent owner. I will say in Daniel X on his side of the argument, he apparently has walked out of board meetings for his company and said, sorry, I've just got to catch the Arsenal score. I want to go and watch the game. So he is committed. And I would like to think he'd be, like James was saying, and there's, a hands-on owner, somebody who will come and watch us all the time, go down into the dressing room, talk to the players before big matches and cup finals, and takes a full part in the club. But I would love to think that we could do something like this German model where that you would have the fans having a very, very big say and a pivotal say in where the club goes, not just going down there with flares and hoping to have a say. Because as John Barnes said, and he hit it exactly right, that's smokescreen. It's making you think that the boys and girls watching Arsenal have done it and we've turned it round. We haven't. This is a monster, a behemoth, a gigantic money chasm that these guys are living in, and no amount of protesting. What I would do, though, and this would be very simple to do, and I'd say to all players, and any dad or mum who've got a young kid would love this, don't buy Arsenal merchandise. My son bought me an Arsenal kit that wasn't made by Arsenal, but it's a red shirt with white sleeves and it's got a different type of cannon on it. And I often wear that because it can never go out of date, So you can still wear your Arsenal top, but you're not pumping money willy-nilly into Kroenke's pocket. So I think a boycott of Arsenal's goods would be very easy if the fans are willing to sort of do that. So that would be an option. But boycotting games is difficult. Yeah, a lot of people I know, and I've sat in different parts of the ground. I know lots of people who go continually to games. I know some people who go to all home and all away games. They would not stop going. They would keep going. They'd shrug their shoulders and say, well, you win some, you sort of lose some, but they are totally committed. So, sorry.
But we've got to start somewhere. But anyway, listen, we've come to an end on this one. I did say 40 minutes. It's just over 40 minutes. James, very quickly, do you have any interviews you can talk us about very, very quickly before we wrap up this one here?
To carry on the Arsenal theme, my interview with Vince Bartram, the goalkeeper from the mid-90s, will be up soon enough, as well as Trevor Stephen talking about Rangers and Marseille, plus a few surprises as well. And quickly, if I can touch on Terry's point when he said about questioning the new owner, as someone who interviews players and managers, and I haven't interviewed an owner just yet, but I would say one thing about Arsenal: what is the purpose for you to buy Arsenal Football Club? What is the purpose? That's the main question. Why are you doing it? To make money? Yeah. To soundproof your investment? Because Arsenal could be Tennessee Arsenal in a couple of years. Arsenal could be LA Arsenal. Arsenal could be Washington Arsenal, and that's my biggest fear. As I said to Des, if the club goes into the Super League, I'm done. But the biggest fear for me is, as someone who was born in Hampstead, North London, the biggest fear for me long term is that my club gets taken outside of its domain. For me, that would top everything. That would top absolutely everything. So I hope that can be avoided at all costs.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah.
We're finished. We're finishing this one. Guys,
can I just say one thing, Alex? Alex, can I just say one thing? WTT, you can call me the enforcer. There's no level. Just call me the enforcer. All right.
Yeah, sorry guys. Thanks, I couldn't have any chance to go into live chat, but thank you for joining us. I saw the numbers bubbling over 40 at any one time watching us on this Monday night chats there. Chaps, James, wonderful. The enforcer, fantastic as usual. And Elto, still a little bit scary. Oh, the original Godfather.
Boom.
Oh my goodness. All right, guys. I will be back tomorrow morning giving some more live news here, right now on this wonderful channel. Community. It's a community right over here. Make sure you subscribe, people. And if you've been wondering who or what you've been listening to